Hello everybody, it's Ashley Bonnett with the District Group and EXP. I'm here with
Laura Nelson with the District Group and EXP.
And we're actually up here in Laura's neck of the woods in Lewisville, gonna go in here and talk to Zeb Williams of Old Nick Williams Distillery.
How fun is this gonna be, guys?
Oh, it's gonna be a blasty blast.
Blasty blast.
Let's go, Laura.
Here we go.
So here we are with Zeb Williams of Old Nick's Distillery. Zeb, thanks for having us today.
Absolutely, thank you for being here.
All right, tell us a little bit about the distillery, the farm.
Well, we are an operating distillery. Family started it back in 1768. We operated as one of the largest distilleries in the United States pre-Prohibition. Prohibition killed the brand, then we revived it in 2015. That's it in a nutshell.
I love that.
If you want to see a little more, come take the tour for that. We make bourbon, several different whiskeys here, rye whiskey, cinnamon whiskey, make a variety of rums, and we also make 3 different vodkas.
Nice. Now, you're not just a distillery, you do other things here, right?
Absolutely, we're a full bar. We operate 7 days a week. We're open till 9 p.m. on the weeknights and 11 p.m. on the weekends. We also have a live music venue outside. Do live music throughout the winter and some big shows during the summer. And then we also too do weddings and corporate events and private parties.
Well, Zeb, tell me, my husband is a huge history buff. Tell me about the lore of the recipe. We've heard different stories. What's the truth?
Well, originally when we got started, we dug and dug and dug. We looked for historical documentation that would actually tell us, but we couldn't ever find that detailed. So we actually took one of these bottles over here that's on display. It still had about half. It was half full of old whiskey. We drew it with a syringe and sent the liquid off to be analyzed to tell potentially what was in it. It did come back that it had corn, wheat, and barley in it, and that's where we determined our original recipe would start.
Well, that sounds awesome.
I have to ask, did you try it?
Absolutely, it was terrible.
Oh, no, terrible. Today's formula is amazingly good.
It is, and we're very proud of it. But keep in mind, too, the interesting part about whiskey is everything has changed from 125, 150 years ago. You know, the acidity levels in the rain, the soils change, the minerals in the ground, changes in the specific grains themselves. So at the end of the day, probably even with the exact same recipe would have tasted totally different.
So this is where the history part and the science behind distilling moonshine and whiskey actually fascinates a nerd like me.
Right. It's actually very interesting. I wish I would have paid a lot more attention in school. You know, now my chemistry teacher's like, I told you so.
Yep.
So I'm here with Ashley Ellis, by the way, awesome name. Thank you. And she's one of the owners here at Old Nick Williams Distillery, and she's going to talk us through a little bit of the distillery process.
First part in this process is going to be the grinding of the grains. Everything's done in here. We use all North Carolina grains. It's corn, wheat, and malted barley for our mash bill on our bourbon. So we start in here, we grind them, and then we move on over to our mash tun, which is right here. This is our mash tun, and in here we add water, bring it up to almost boiling, and then we start adding in our grains and our enzymes, and our yeast eventually go in this. And from there, we pump it out and put it into our fermentation tanks, and the fermentation process will begin in this room over here. After we are done with fermentation, we bring it over to the still. On the bourbon, we actually do a 2-pass system. It's gonna go in the main kettle. We're gonna bypass these thumpers. It's gonna come out the condensing column. We're gonna collect that. That's the first collection. That's gonna be our stripping run. Then it's gonna go back in the still. We're gonna run it again. That's our finishing run. And from there, we'll collect it and put it into barrels. The rum, however, only gets through one time. And we're gonna use both of these thumpers. And that's just the Caribbean rum process. And that's the style of rum we choose to do. And from there, we'll either bottle it or it will also go into used barrels and we'll age it for a little while. So behind me you have all of our barrels and they are all full of product. To be a bourbon, it's got to go into a new American oak charred barrel, which some of these are, most of them are on that side of me. Or to be a rye whiskey, same thing, new American oak charred barrels. But after we dump those barrels out, we reuse them again for our rum. And so that's what you see in a lot of these barrels as well. So we've got all kinds of things behind us, but it just depends on what the product is and what type of barrel it needs.
Zeb, Ashley, thanks for talking to us today. So tell everybody out there how they can support you, where you're located, where they can get information, what your hours are.
We are located in Lewisville, 2675 Williams Road. We are open 7 days a week. We are open Mondays 1 to 6, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays 11 to 9, Fridays and Saturdays 11 to 11, and Sundays 1 to 7. You can find more information about us on our website at www.oldnickwhiskey.com.
And they can find the events.
It's on the website as well.
Wonderful. And thanks for the drink.
You're welcome.